Morthouse. A morthouse or deadhouse was a specialized secure building usually located in a churchyard where bodies were temporarily interred before a formal funeral took place. These buildings date back to the time when bodysnatchers or resurrectionists frequently illegally exhumed dead bodies that were then sold for dissection as part of human anatomy training at universities, etc. Morthouses were alternatives to mortsafes, watchhouses, watchtowers, etc. Graveyard security. Incentives for bodysnatching. The law had previously been ill-suited to deal with the problem as the crime of theft only applies to property and the deceased are not defined as property, special care being taken to leave behind rings, mortcloths, etc. Belatedly, the Anatomy Act 1832 codified the use of bodies for dissection, etc., and morthouses, etc. therefore ceased to have a distinct purpose, the peak time of body snatching being from the 1730s until 1832. In the early 19th century, body snatching was such a lucrative trade that devising of methods to prevent the taking of fresh corpses became essential. Large sums of money were paid for the recently deceased, as the students were largely better off individuals at the time who could afford significant fees, and university anatomy departments could otherwise only legally obtain corpse. Corpse. Some of the poorer medical students were even involved in the supply of corpses to their colleagues. A mortuary or morgue differs from a morthouse in that it is a place primarily used for the storage of human corpses awaiting identification or removal for autopsy prior to burial, cremation, etc. The requirement for corpses to be in good anatomical condition lent itself to methods of delaying burial until the bodies were of no dissection value in buildings with prison-like security systems in place. The characteristics of morthouses. Morthouses usually did away with the expense of employing watchmen, and money was therefore invested in making such buildings as secure as possible with thick stone walls, no windows, metal inner doors and outer doors with extra metal reinforcement to the locks and the wooden body of the door. A lack of ornamentation was common, and few had inscriptions other than the date of construction. Some morthouses were built up against existing structures, such as the graveyard wall, to save on construction costs. A number of morthouses were built partly underground or were effectively subterranean to give added security. Some were lead-lined to prevent water seeping into the vault, and air vents were a common feature. Massive walls were typical if the building was at ground level, and one example was circular to make breaking through the wall more difficult. Many had shelves for the coffins, and some had rollers for ease of movement of the heavy wooden coffins, so that the least physical contact was required. The cadavers in their coffins were generally left in the morthouse for up to 6 weeks in summer months and as long as 3 months in winter time. At Udney Green Morthouse, rules stipulated the secure construction of coffins that had to be airtight. Corpses that were infectious or otherwise dangerous were required to be enveloped in lead or tin plate. Use was by subscription or by payment of a fee. Some surviving examples of morthouses. In Scotland, the morthouses are mainly located in the northeast in an area from Crail in the south to Marnock in the north. A few isolated examples are also found in places such as Edinburgh, and 2 examples survive in Ayrshire at Mauchline and Dreghorn. Most old morthouses are used for storage or have been abandoned, whilst a few have been adapted for other purposes. Felhelvy in Jena, 1417, dating from 1835. A solid arched structure with a slate roof. Built of granite blocks, with a single doorway and double doors. 2 shelves on each side have rollers for easy positioning of coffins. An iron sheet with a secure lock formed the inner door, and the outer door is thick oak with metal studs and 2 locks. The keyholes are covered and protected by 2 iron bars that were hinged and were in turn padlocked. Clatt, Aberdeenshire in J 539,259, a subterranean morthouse accessed via a flight of steps. The entrance has been bricked up. Corpses were in great demand for use at the nearby Aberdeen medical schools. Calasin 197,319 reported as awaiting restoration. Callian 884,873, a subterranean morthouse with the entrance door now buried. Crail and 613,079 dated 1826, with an inscription erected for securing the dead. It is rectangular with ornamental battlements, ventilation slits, a substantial stone construction, and a single solid door. Cramond 289,768, a likely morthouse in Cramond Kirk Cemetery, now housing electrical equipment. Cowlin J 511,024, built into a slope. This substantial morthouse has a barrel vault and has a turf-covered roof. Dreghorn NS 351,382, sponsored by Archibald Montgomery, Earl of Eglinton. The church is an unusual octagonal shape, and the small school building of 1774 was in the 19th century used as a morthouse and a mortuary, with a room for each, later being used as the Kirk Session House. Hatton of Fintray in 840,165, dated 1830. It lies partly underground. It was lead-lined to prevent moisture ingress. Coffins sat on iron shelving. Kemnay in J 733,161, dated to 1831. This bunker-like turf-covered building used to be lead-lined, reportedly to prevent mold. It has an iron bar securing the metal door and has 2 coffin shelves with rollers. Kirkton of Culsemind in J 650,329, an unusual combined morthouse and watchtower. The morthouse is built into the slope and had an outer wooden door and an inner metal door. Lenolent 857,411 in 1821. A morthouse was built inside this abandoned church at the west end of the nave, utilizing some existing walling. Range of Lindores and Otwo 159,163, located in Abdiold Kirk. Rectangular and now used to display a Pictish stone. Luncarty and A 94,300, a rectangular rubble-built structure with a barrel-shaped roof in good condition. Marnock and J 595,499, an 1832 dual morthouse and watchtower. Merrikirk and A 686,655, the turf covering has been removed, exposing the rubble fill over the stone-vaulted roof. Mauchline and S 498,272, a rectangular slate roof building with several air vents and partly subterranean, being built into the graveyard from the west side and said to have been constructed originally for cholera victims. In the 19th century, an Asiatic cholera outbreak reached the United Kingdom, and by 1832 it was at Exeter in Devon, reaching Kilmarnock in July 1832. Monarchy in off of 118,388, double wooden doors, ventilation slit, rectangular with a slated roof. Redgorton, Gowrie, Perth and Kinross NO 83,283. The church has been converted into flats, and the 1832 dated morthouse is of a massive construction. Rosethan 85,828, a rectangular building built into the slope at the corner of the churchyard, window boarded up and the roof grassed over. Spiny and J 288,654, once possessed a metal frame roof, has ventilation strips and 3 shelves for coffins. Udney Green in J 179,264, Aberdeenshire, dating from 1832. A circular construction, rather than the usual rectangular, granite-built vault with a slate roof. A double-layered oak outer door studded with iron bolts and a keyhole protected by a hinged iron secured by a padlock. An iron sheet vertically sliding into a pair of grooves is an unusual feature. The circular wooden platform on which the coffins were laid revolves on a central stone pillar, and coffins were maneuvered onto the platform that was then moved to make room for another coffin, and so on.